Ever since the day that you went away, you went away.
Hi guys, if you're new here, hi, hello, welcome. My name is Andra and I make commentary videos on pop culture and YouTubers. Today's video is gonna be a little bit of a hard one to make because it's a little bit personal, and I want you guys to know that although I will not be talking a lot about Angelika in this video, I am not ignoring this subject or refusing to talk about it or taking her side or anything like that. I just feel like, being a white person, I don't really have much to say that will be just something other than parroting information that I've seen from people of color. Therefore, I will leave in the description at the top a few videos made on this subject by people of color because I feel like they can speak more on their own experiences than I can. And I just wanted to leave this as a little disclaimer so that you guys don't think that I'm deflecting from the issue. I think there is a bunch of different issues happening at the same time when it comes to this drama, and I don't think any one issue should overshadow the other ones, so that's not what I'm trying to do. As I said, I will be leaving a few videos that you guys can watch if you want to hear more criticism of Angelika, more in depth and just better phrased than I can do, because ultimately what I think on this whole issue, it doesn't matter because I'm not the one who's been hurt. I think that even though maybe Angelika's intentions were not bad, intentions don't matter when you hurt someone's emotions, and that's gonna be a recurring theme in today's video actually. So I just feel like I would have probably apologized sooner than she did, and that's that on that. But as I said, the videos will be there, as well as a video that I watched yesterday from Kahlen Barry. I just started watching him after I talked about him in my previous video, and I love his content. We talked a little bit about Palestine because he's been sharing stuff about Palestine, and I was like, wow, you're the first influencer who actually did that, and that means a lot to me. And we talked a little, and then I watched his video on white privilege, and that's gonna be a theme as well. So I will leave that because people who are affected by these things, they speak on these issues better than I can do. So this video is gonna be in kind of 3 parts. The first part is gonna be about Smokey Glow and why I think there's been a bit of a double standard when it comes to her, and then the second part is gonna be about Diana Plantana. I hope I'm saying that right. She's Latina, so I assume that's how you pronounce it because my language is Latin as well. And my friend's experience being bullied by Diana one time, and the last part is gonna be a little bit about Angelika, what I can actually say, because she speaks of a certain issue that I can involve myself in, which is not related to Black Indigenous people of color. So that's what I'm gonna be speaking on, because it's something that's been bothering me and that I've been affected by personally as well for a while. So I will talk about that at the end of the video. So let's get started. The first part is just about Smokey Glow and how she's being hailed as the savior of minorities, but she's not really savior of all minorities, and why it matters to me personally. I've actually reached out to Hannah and haven't heard anything back, so this is why I'm making the video, because I feel like this shouldn't just be a problem related to Hannah. This goes further than this YouTube drama. It's daily lives for some of us. I'm gonna start with my own ethnic identity. I am Romanian, born in Romania. I live in the UK. I also have Russian and Turkish ancestry from my grandparents, and being an Eastern European in the UK is sometimes very, very tricky, and there's a lot of discrimination going around, and I'm sharing the video on white privilege just to kind of explain that the idea of intersectionality comes up in this discussion, because I do have white privilege, but I do not have the same privilege that Western Europeans or native British white residents have. So it's all a staircase of where privileges can sit. And obviously at the bottom, unfortunately, there is people of color, but we're not on the same step of the stairs as white British, if that makes sense. This is a convoluted explanation, but I just wanted to kind of say a little bit about that first. To say, yes, I acknowledge my white privilege, and I acknowledge that to some extent I don't look like a foreigner, so you can't pick me from a crowd and say, yeah, she's Eastern European. I understand that, and I always speak for minorities. I am pro giving people the rights that they deserve, obviously, and that includes my people as well. And there is so many times when I felt like I can't speak about my people because there are other more pressing and more urgent matters, but I feel like we as a society can handle more issues at the same time. So this is why I'm bringing this forward. I wasn't going to make this public, but some things kind of influenced me to do so. So I've sent Hannah an email pointing out the kind of hypocrisy in the fact that she was angry at Angelika for being microaggressive, but Hannah in the original collaboration video was kind of microaggressive herself. So I wrote this email. I'm just gonna read it to you guys because I feel like that's the easiest way to get across my point, because I'm not really that good at speaking without a script. So I'll just read the exact email that I haven't heard back from Hannah about. Hi Hannah, I know this may not be appropriate to contact you on your business email, but I feel like this is too important a conversation for me to bite my tongue. I tried to message on Instagram, but I don't want to leave it to the chance that you may not see it. If you need to discuss any further, I will happily respond at my Instagram. Seeing your back and forth with Angelika has left me upset at both of you. At her for not apologizing for the pain she's caused immediately, and at you for calling out microaggressions towards the group while being completely unaware you were being microaggressive in that video. I do not understand why Angelika said nothing about it, but I assume it's because she's lived in the UK for long enough for these things to not be a problem for her. I'm a Slavic girl living in the UK too. I'm also a small YouTuber. I find it hard to navigate the commentary niche as an audibly foreign girl who sometimes stutters in English, and that's been a problem for me. Sometimes I feel like people probably click on my videos and they just refuse to watch because I have an accent and maybe it's not the easiest for them to understand what I'm saying compared to somebody who's a native English speaker, and that hurts me a lot because I work in translation, so I am fluent, but I just don't get taken as seriously as some other fluent people, and it just hurts. I have not lived in the UK for long enough to feel fully comfortable with that, as in with speaking English without getting shy. Although I am fluent in English, it's still sometimes my anxiety gets the better of me and I don't feel like I can speak comfortably. I am proud of my identity, although the British government is trying its best to deport us, and you can see I'm going to be putting in the description down below some deportation laws that have been not necessarily approved yet, but proposed by the British government regarding minorities. A lot of them are regarding us, European minorities, and the timing is just really, really odd, and because Brexit is coming in just a few days, hopefully if it happens, at least we can get it over with, but the timing is just suspicious. Although they say it's directed at all minorities, it feels like it's more directed at us, and they would like to deport us and get rid of us, and yeah. See Brexit and who the main targets are. It's not people of color in this instance, it's Slavs or Eastern Europeans. And I'm not saying that people of color are not affected by discrimination, I'm just saying Brexit, the referendum itself and the vote, was heavily motivated by propaganda about getting rid of specifically us Romanians and Polish people. Like, these were the targets, and sometimes Bulgarians as well, but we were targeted intentionally by the media, and it was a lot of like slanderous stuff. I'm gonna be leaving in the description down below a video about xenophobia in the UK by Jordan Teresa, in which she has a whole section about Romanian discrimination, and you can see what I mean. I'm not trying to diminish the pain of people of color in this instance, I'm just trying to say that the main reasons are related to xenophobia against my people, and maybe some of them are related to not wanting to take in refugees, because the European Union has this whole rules about taking in refugees from like Syria and like other places in the Middle East, and if the UK leaves the European Union, they don't have to take refugees anymore. So maybe that's another factor, but the main one has been about us, unfortunately. But I felt my identity erased watching your collaboration, and that shit hurt. You called Angelika British. She's not British, she's Polish. Calling an immigrant that, as in the place that they live in, erases our own beautiful Slavic cultures, which many people tried to erase already. See the Ottoman slave trade, yes, we were slaves. Also see Hitler's genocide of our people, starting in Poland, where Angelika is from, and going all the way to the USSR, where 27 million of us were massacred. And by the way, that's even debatable. Some numbers say 40 million, so a lot more than that. But that's the bare minimum, is 27. If you add up all the Slavic countries' death toll, that's 37 million people. Compare that to the 6 million Jewish people who died, which is still horrible, but we are never talked about in the context of World War II. They tried to erase us from history many times. I only brought up the Jewish numbers as a reference because what happened in the Holocaust is horrible, and torture that they went through is undescribable, and I'm not bringing the numbers up in order to like diminish their trauma or whatever. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just bringing it as a reference point that you guys can see that especially in America they never talk about us in the context of the Holocaust. This is like when I told a few Americans what happened to us in the Holocaust, they were like, we had no idea, we thought it's only Jewish people and gays. And that is the ignorance of the Western education system, because they hate us so much because of the Cold War and communism and everything, that they have been trying to actively erase us from history. That's the point that I've been making here. It's not to diminish other traumas or to compare or to perform the Operation Olympics. That's not what I'm doing. I just want to make that clear. You also spelled her name on multiple occasions as Angelika with a C, the anglicized way of spelling a Slavic name. There is history behind that. The first Slavic immigrants to the West, some were Jewish, some were Christians, had to change their names to the English versions in order to assimilate to the UK and the US. And I have some sources, and I'm gonna leave those in the bio as well. And on top of those sources, I wanted to read you an extract from one of the sources, because I feel like this will convey the emotion behind having to leave your identity behind. It's just, I don't know, just really, really painful to hear about, and really traumatic if you have to share this kind of trauma with a whole half a continent, basically. So this article is about the woman who changed her name to something sounding more Western in order to escape discrimination and all that during the Cold War. And there is a part of the article, I'm gonna leave the full article in the description, but there is a part that made me start crying last night, and I just kind of want to share that with you guys. I sent all 19 Vilenkins, that's her family name from before, the same message, subject line, hello from another Vilenkin, and heard back from several. There were no family connections, but one thing was apparent. Being a Vilenkin wasn't easy. One branch was wiped out by the Nazis in Odessa. Others died in the German bombardment of Moscow. Some fled to Samarkand, where it was more possible to live as observant Jews under the communist regime. Some were orphaned during the revolution. I'm sorry if I got a little bit emotional, but this is just something that most of us Slavs have to endure a lot of pain. And part of our history is about pain and people trying to kill us over and over again and dehumanize us. And this is why I feel like this is so important to talk about. And it's so funny because I made a video talking about my rape in detail and I didn't cry at that one, but I'm crying at this because it's so hard being far away from home in the middle of a pandemic. You can't go home and see part of your family. It's just so painful. And I want you guys to understand that this is not, like I said, this is not the Operation Olympics. This is not defending Angelika. This is defending me and the way that I felt while watching Hannah's collaboration with Angelika and seeing her name spelled wrong, her identity stripped away from her. It felt like how people try to strip my identity away from me since I moved to England. People have been spelling my name like Andrea so many times, and I fucking hate it. I hate it because if somebody calls me British now, I'll punch them in the face because I'm so proud of my identity. We are resilient, powerful people. We have been enslaved. I don't want to be compared to this nation of, you know, like a history of colonization, slavery and imperialism. This is not who we are. It's not. And I don't want to be compared to them. And I'm not saying all rich people are bad or Americans are bad. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that my identity is a very, very important part of who I am. And I don't want that to be stripped away from me. And watching Hannah's video brought back pretty much all the instances of xenophobia and microaggressions that I've experienced in my 4 years of being in England. And it sucked. It sucked to feel that. I didn't want to feel that. I was watching a fucking casual drama video. This is not what I signed up for. They didn't consider us white until we took the necessary steps to become white. We had to erase our identity to gain the rights we now have, time and time again. And people continue to erase us despite all we sacrificed. Including you, maybe unintentionally, but still. I have sources on historical contexts of whiteness and why Slavs, Irish people, Jews, Greeks, and so on and so forth were not considered white. Let me know if you need to see those. So I was gonna offer her sources of why Slavic immigrants, Jewish immigrants, Irish immigrants were, when they moved to the States first, they were called ethno-immigrants or ethnic immigrants. So we were above black people, but not the same category as white people. So that's a fact, and I know I have white privilege now, but my parents, if they lived in the West for like half of their life, they wouldn't have had white privilege because we became white when communism fell in the early 80s. So my parents, if they were my age, they would have just become white societally, which is insane. The concept of race evolves in a way that it needs to in order to uphold white supremacy. So when a lot of Eastern people immigrated to the West, they had to find a way to make us white, because if we weren't accepted as white, then we would be more minorities than white people in the US and the UK. And the same thing kind of happened to the Arabic people and Middle Eastern people in general. They moved to the West and they had to do certain things like, you know, women had to stop wearing hijab, some people had to convert, some people had to change their names to more Western English names compared to their own original names, and we had to go through like similar things, converting from Orthodox to Catholicism, converting from Judaism, some people convert to Christianity from Judaism, and like a lot of different things happened, a lot of different experiences, and they were making it so we have to take a few steps in order to become white, so it was a whole process, and because of that, I just know that my white privilege stands on the back of like other people sacrificing themselves and stripping away their own identity in order to be accepted. So although I'm very, very thankful for having the privilege that I have now, I feel like it's my duty to talk about my people and keep them alive and keep all our sacrifices remembered, because the media, Western media, never talks about us, so who's gonna talk about us if I don't? Maybe Angelika doesn't mind this, I don't know her, but as a viewer, I do. I've been called too foreign so many times. I've been verbally attacked for being a ethnic or national minority while in England multiple times. They vandalized our car, which is a true story. They vandalized our cars and my dad's car and also my uncle's car, and they didn't even steal anything from them, although there were multiple things there, so all that screams hate crime, because they would have taken things from it if it was just the, you know, the purpose of stealing. And it was after we just moved here and we played Romanian music, and probably somebody who hates Romanians heard the music and they decided to do that at night, and it was just terrifying. We just came here and I already didn't feel safe in my new home. I got followed home by a xenophobe and had slurs shouted at me and to go back to my country. And I'm white. So my point here is that white privilege is not equal. And this happened to me when I was coming back from work. It was like 11:30 p.m, so like super late, nearly midnight. This druggy, creepy guy followed me like 2 streets, shouting, go back to your country, stop speaking your fucking language, because I was speaking with my mom on the phone, because when I get off the bus, I call my mom, so I can like walk home safely in the dark without, you know, worrying about something happening. If I have my mom on the phone, she'll know my location and all that. And I felt slurs shouted at my face multiple times. It was the G slur for traveler. I'm gonna put it on the screen because I don't want to say it. Roma is a different ethnicity and they still conflate Romanians and Roma in many countries, and it's a slur. I don't care that it's not about me. It's the same as if you call the very dark skinned Indian the N-word. It's not a slur about them, but it's still bad intentions and it still hurts. I can never claim to fully understand Angelika's microaggressions towards people of color, and this is not a way to deflect from those. As I said, I think if she's hurt someone, it doesn't matter if she had good intentions or not, she still hurt someone, and I can listen, but I can't understand in the same way that I would if it was something I would experience myself. She's still guilty too, but the shit you said about Angelika doesn't only hurt Angelika, it hurt me. Just like the microaggressions that Angelika did can hurt the whole group they're directed at. I shouldn't have to pay the price for Angelika saying microaggressions because I didn't do that myself. But what Hannah did, what Smokey Glow did, hurt me as well. And made me feel like shit for the whole night after I watched the video. I was feeling like shit, I was feeling invalidated, I don't know, I just felt horrible. You say you care about minorities, maybe in the US we're not as much of a minority as in the UK, though I can argue Slavophobia and specifically Russophobia and the Red Scare are alive and well in the US too. I have articles on that in the description down below. It's not comparable to the systematic violence and murders of black indigenous people of color. But I am a minority, I am proud of it, so please don't erase us. Your education system dehumanized us long enough with the big bad communism and the Cold War, do better. And then I made it like a nice outro, but she didn't reach out to me. Love and understanding come a long way, and I'm willing to extend mine to you if you genuinely hadn't realized what you did and tried to meet me in the middle. And I haven't heard back from her, so this is why I'm coming public with this, because when the drama dies down, there's not gonna be an opening for me to talk about something that is more than just YouTube drama. This is a whole ethnic group of half of Europe, and within that big ethnic group there are several smaller ethnic groups, so you know it's important for a lot of people. And to kind of prove that this whole thing caused the domino effect and it could hurt many people, other YouTubers have made a follow-up video defending Smokey Glow, and many of them have misspelled Angelika's name and called her British. So this is a domino effect. Everybody's getting their information from Smokey Glow, and because of that people are erasing our ethnicity. And I'm not gonna give names because honestly these people are not as guilty as Smokey Glow is, because these people have just not done enough research, whereas Hannah has claimed to have been Angelika's friend. I find it very hard to believe that you can be someone's friend and not know their ethnicity or how to spell their name. It's just offensive and it's worse than I imagined. And what made it even worse is somebody pointed out to me that Smokey Glow is partially Polish. And that was the nail on the coffin for me. This was after I sent my email. I was like, how ignorant do you have to be? You said your mother is Polish or part Polish or whatever, and you are, your mother's a nationalist and you are celebrating Polish traditions and shit. How do you not know how to spell a Polish name if you are so in love with Polish culture? You don't experience the same that I do. You're American. Just because your mother's Polish, you can be American and Polish, but you're not the same as me. I'm an immigrant. I have an accent. My first language is not English. I had to learn and work hard to get here. You were born there. You have privileges that I will never have. And because of that, I just find it disgusting that you would do that. As I said, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but I still think it should be addressed because it's not the only incident of something like this ever happening. It always happens. Some people do it on purpose. Some people refuse to spell our names correctly. And this is like a whole thing. And I just feel like it's so weird that she said she's part Polish, but her and Angelika never talked about their ethnicity. I find that extremely hard to believe. Because if you have something in common with someone else, you will obviously bond over that one thing you have in common. So I just find it very, very hard to believe that this was never brought up in conversation between them two. So like, I'm part Turkish, and then my friend that I'm going to talk about later in the video, she's Turkish as well. And that's the thing we bonded over, is like, we're both bisexual Turkish women. Well, I'm not fully Turkish, but you know what I mean? Like, we bonded over that because it's something we have in common. That's the natural way. When you meet someone and you have something in common, you're like, oh yeah, I like that too, or I'm like that too, or whatever. Like, you will bond over that. So I just find it very, very hard to believe that Hannah didn't know. Maybe she just didn't think Angelika would mind, but like, I mind. And the thing is, one of the things that meant a lot to me is this friend of mine that I'm going to be talking about a bit later. She, as I said, she's Turkish. She brought up what happened with me on a Reddit related to like Beauty Guru Chatter or whatever that one Reddit. She brought it up and said that I got upset over this. Being Slavic myself, I was affected by it, and she wants to amplify my voice. And honestly, that made me emotional because that's one of the first people that ever did that who is not a Slav. And that could show you how much of solidarity we're not getting because nobody cares about us. And it's quite sad because I've been trying so much to, you know, care about other people and share everything I can and just be a good activist, protest for other people. And it's sad that nobody else does it for us. I'm not doing it to get something back or to be appreciated back, but it's just sad, to be honest. I feel sad about a lot of things lately, and I'm gonna show you some of the responses that my friend got on her Reddit because I feel like it's important to show the scale of this and that it affected other people, not just me. I'm not just the one offended Slav or whatever. It's not only me. Someone said that it doesn't only happen when they're immigrants, even on the internet. A lot of times someone said, you're writing your name wrong, it should be Alexandra, not Alexandra with KS. Even though it is my name in Poland, we don't have a letter X in names. As a Slav, I'm beyond grateful you wrote this. I could go on and on about microaggressions and discrimination that's purely dismissed by, but you're white. On top of that, multiple Americans educated me that I'm not white, regardless of skin color, and I'm like, everyone takes the piss at Slavs because of classism. I'm all over the place, but I have so much to say. That's true. We're always the working class, poor Slavs in tracksuit. The working class aesthetic is like tracksuits and those neon vests. This is all like fucking like Slavs can't afford to buy more. That's why we're wearing that. It's not a fashion statement, it's poverty. Yeah, sad thing is I'm Slovak and had to anglicize my last name because companies wouldn't hire me because no Russians. This made me hurt on Angelika's behalf. Exactly, it's not even just about Angelika, it's about projecting our own feelings onto what happened because this affects us on our daily lives. As a Pole, sincerely thank you for your comment. She's not British, she moved to England when she was 11 I think, I don't remember correctly, but I'm sure she was born in Poland. And here is being anti-Slavic. It's more common, doesn't mean it is justified to write it in error. She has it in her channel name, so it's not like it's a hidden knowledge. It takes less than a minute to check if it's C or K. For you, it's an innocent mistake, but for many Slavs, including me, it's a constant thing to deal with. Yeah, it's fucking every day. My name's Andra, and they say Andrea. And it's not, actually, Andra's not even my name is longer than that. But I had to shorten it, and I don't even use my surname online because nobody would be fucking able to pronounce it. You know, like, it's frustrating. Because I have to learn how to pronounce all these fucking English words, like to pronounce Worcester instead of fucking this on screen. And you guys don't want to fucking bother to learn a 5-letter name. My American grandfather used to tell anti-Polish jokes after he got back from World War II. My mom thought the slur he used to refer to Polish people was just a synonym for idiot until she got older and realized how offensive his jokes had actually been. If it weren't for that story, I wouldn't have known anti-Polish sentiment was a thing. It's definitely a thing. And the Cold War actually amplified it because it was all communists are bad, communists are not human. Like, it was all against us. and nobody even educates you on that, because as Slavs, we don't feel comfortable talking to the West, so we just kind of suck it in and mind our own business. And maybe that's where we're wrong, because maybe we should educate more, because that's how people of color have started to get heard, is because they started to speak up and we don't do it. So I feel like we should kind of swallow our pride and reach out to Westerners and talk about it. So that's why I'm trying to do this video now. That's the purpose of it. I can relate to this as a Pole. I had to anglicize my name for the sake of communication too, especially in general spaces. Professionals I met are far more welcoming to us than general population in my experience. There is a bias against us, and what's weird is that not longer than some 60 years ago we're not considered white, European or modern. The same goes for Ukrainians, Serbs, Moldavians, etc. See the Slav meme. We were put back by recent history terribly because of circumstances that were made fun of for it. And we are actually a bunch of nice countries to begin with. I wonder if the same will meet Afghans after war. There's bloodshed there now, and I hardly see any coverage on this. I know how my family was slashed by both wars. It's a generational trauma that will last. Being on the wrong side of the fence is tragic and crucial in all of this. It's a hurtful issue, and it's everywhere. We are just one officer's sign away from an attack, and a couple years of this bloody fun to be put down on international scene. There are no winners in wars. I would say it's not even 60 years ago, it's 40 years ago, because communism dehumanized us to the point that we weren't even a race, we were just fucking like monsters. So 1989 is when the last revolution was, and it was actually my country, Romania. That's when the last revolution was on Christmas Day. And since we became capitalist, we were accepted as white, kind of. And yeah, it's 30 years. So my parents, who are in their 50s, for half of their life, they weren't even considered white by the West, which is insane. I'm not Slavic, but I am an immigrant, and one who passes it doesn't erase our identity or your identity, and the xenophobia you have experienced is real and valid, and I'm so sorry. People refuse to acknowledge xenophobia so often, and I'm heartened to see that this sub is addressing it. Just because I look American doesn't mean I wasn't told to go the fuck back where I came from at age 10. Me too. I know how that feels. So these are just a few of the comments that people have been sending in regards to this, and it made me so emotional that my friend talking about my story has made other people like me share their story. And I've messaged them privately, tried to connect to them, because I feel like being a Slav in the West is so lonely sometimes, and you need people like you. You need a sense of community, and sometimes it's hard to get it with Westerners because they don't get us in the same way. And another thing that I feel like it's worth pointing out is that in one of her threads, I know Hannah's not responsible for her fans' actions, but I still want to bring it up because it matters. In one of her threads, she had a person who is from Eastern Europe, and she just kind of asked some questions about microaggressions, because if you live in Eastern Europe, you don't really know about these things. The only reason why I know as much as I know is because I live in England and I actually talk to people of color, but we barely have people of color in Eastern Europe other than Roma and a few other communities. Like we have Tatars in Romania, which is like a Turkish people, and we have a few others, but overall we don't have black people. And yeah, it's just, I think I've seen probably 2 or 3 black people in my whole life in Romania, 19 years. So we don't know the same things that you guys know in the West, because we're not affected by them, and we don't have minorities who are affected by them. So this girl was asking questions, and Hannah's fans just jumped at her throat, called her snow roach, which is fucking bullshit. Like, listen, I know I'm white and I have white privilege, but people from Eastern Europe, we don't think about races. We don't care about skin color. It's mostly about culture. So like Roma people are a separate ethnicity because of their culture, not because of the skin color. Because we've been enslaved by fucking Ottomans, so a lot of people are darker. And it's just, they're still Romanians, it's just the same. If they're assimilated to Romanian culture, they're Romanians. And we don't think about things in terms of races. So this girl was just confused, and people jumped at her throat. And they were like, I can't believe a white woman, she would watch Hannah and not know that this is not normal, whatever. This is not about white or not white, it's about somebody who's never had to deal with these things or see these things, versus someone who has to experience these things every day. In Eastern Europe, we're too sheltered to know these things, and if you don't educate us, we're not gonna know where to look for these things, because you guys, you have a different experience. You can't keep on talking about everything in terms of as if it was the same as America, because it's not. And I'm sorry, I care, but you can't expect everybody to be born knowing everything. To prove only how ignorant some Americans are to issues that are happening in their own country, as long as they're not heavily trending, like Black Lives Matter is trending right now, they don't even know what's happening. If you ask many Americans about BLM, like not the movement, because the movement started about like 6 years ago, I think. If you ask them about if anything is wrong with black people and like racism, not black people themselves, like if anything's wrong with how they're being treated by the system. If you ask them this 10 years ago, they would have probably said that no, the society is equal, because they're so ignorant, and unless something is everywhere up in their faces, they don't acknowledge it. This one person, I'm not gonna read their whole comment because I don't want to give them fucking relevancy, but they said that Hannah had no way of knowing that this is a thing because there's strong anti-Eastern European sentiments in Europe, and Americans don't know about this. You may not know what's happening in Europe, but honey, there is fucking anti-Eastern European sentiment in America as well. And you can't say, oh no, there's not. I'm gonna actually leave some sources of people talking about this who live in America and they are Eastern European, because they can explain it better than me. You know, in the Cold War, your own police was checking on our people to see if we're Russian spies. I cannot believe the fucking level of ignorance here. America is treating everyone badly, and you should acknowledge that. And to discuss Hannah's other hypocrisies for a little bit, because then I'm gonna move on to my friend's story, because this video is getting like 10 years long. She also made a whole big deal about James Charles harassing other boys sexually, and people said that this is a homophobic trope about how gay men are predatory, and I'm bisexual and it didn't really offend me that much, but yesterday Hannah, when she made the video, she dismissed this claim completely instead of apologizing, and that's what pissed me off. How do you expect Angelika to apologize for her unintentional, probably unintentional microaggressions, but then you don't apologize for your own? And you dismiss us. Why? I do not understand. I thought you were the savior of minorities. Saying shit like to Angelika, why did it take me calling you out for you to make a video about this? Well, why did it take your fans calling you out to call out your friend? This should have been done already. If you're friends with someone, you're going to tell them when they're wrong. You don't need to wait for your fans. And the fact that she pretended like she doesn't know, it's so easy to find out. When you make a collab, you should research that person. It's so easy to find out. It's so public. And now moving on to the second part of the video, Diana Plantana being a big hypocrite. You probably have seen the photos circulating around with her saying the N-word and other slurs directed at Mexicans and stuff like that, and saying that she's pretending to be a Mexican. I'm gonna leave that video in the description, as well as some photos on the screen right now for you guys to see. What pissed me off, and my friend was pissed off as well, rightfully so, because she was affected by Diana personally, is that she posted, never in my entire brown life have I ever encountered a Caucasian with the audacity to not only define to me what white passing means, but also have my ethnic face on the screen at the same time. Nobody has ever denied my obvious non-whiteness. I've never experienced this. I have encountered some blatant and ugly racism before, but never in my life has anyone ever said to me, you're not brown. Ever. I'm like dumbfounded. I've never prepared myself for the moment someone will call me not brown. I can't believe I got to watch a white woman take my brown identity away from me in front of her audience of 500,000 subscribers while people cheered her on. A fun sneak peek for those of you who don't seem to understand how this racism thing works. Now that I've had my skin color challenge, my mind involuntarily replays every single time I've encountered racism, and I get to relive each and every moment. And that's how I felt about Smokey Glow video, by the way. The thing is, I would have genuinely felt bad for her, because that's what I felt the other day. So I would have felt that for her if it wasn't for finding out that my friend, the one who posted on Reddit to defend me, and thank you so much for doing that for me, my friend was the one who's had her ethnicity and non-whiteness dismissed by Diana a few months ago. So how are you gonna cry about having your brownness dismissed when you do the same to another person? How much of a hypocrite do you have to be? This is like the jerk fest of hypocrites online. Being called out for saying the N-word and then being the victim and saying that the worst part is that this is gonna hurt people. No, you're hurting people, not Angelika posting this. You said the fucking N-word. Unlike you, I've never said the N-word. So I know that if I'm calling you out to your hypocrisy, you're not gonna find anything on me saying the N-word. The only thing you might find is me reposting other people saying the N-word, like a meme or whatever that contains the N-word, but it's not the verbiage that I would ever use. We don't even have the N-word in my language. So to make that clear, you would never find something on that extent about me. Never. So I can call out hypocrites because I know I'm not one. My record is clean, Diana, so come with me. I don't care. To tell you the story of how my friend had her non-whiteness invalidated. So as I say, my friend's Turkish. And she's lived in Netherlands and now Norway, so for her, I suppose it's the same experience as me experiencing xenophobia a lot of her life. On top of colorism, obviously, because she's not, at least I'm fair-skinned, so people don't notice that I'm foreign until I open my mouth and the fucking Slavic accent comes out. For her, it's more than that. It's Islamophobia as well as her skin color being discriminated against, so it's more complicated. And in August, when Angelika was in the initial drama about this, or initial, not drama because this is actually something that hurts people, I don't know, the initial moment in which she upset some people. My friend kind of defended her, and she said, I mean, I'm a person of color and watching your video didn't make me feel like, oh, a white girl defending Kylie at all. I don't know, but I got your point. And I agree to be honest, but I suppose I don't speak for all people of color out there. And see, she said she's a person of color, not black, because she's not black. You realize there's a difference between a black and POC. Kylie steals from black culture, not POC culture. And here's when Diana came. People who have to explain their POC are usually not. And there's a lot more stuff. This other girl who was bullying her, but Diana kept on doubling down, putting fucking white on a meme. Do what? Make fun of her. Also, what kind of POC would stand in the way of a fellow POC from expressing themselves when it comes to the oppression they feel? Nah, imposter, deviant, deranged, ugly. Imagine saying this. How much of a fucking bully do you have to be? And the thing is, this other girl was saying to my friend, don't talk if you're a POC but you're not black. But is Diana black? No. So why are you letting her talk? Because she's spinning your narrative. But if somebody's against your narrative, you don't let them talk because they're not black? You are going out of your way to be that guy. It's a sad personality to have. I'm sorry for whatever caused you to seek attention like this. How mean do you fucking have to be? Especially when you are the thirstiest for attention on this fucking planet. Like, you've weaponized black people's pain when you're not even black. This is why I don't want to associate with this kind of behavior. That's why I said I'm gonna be amplifying their voices and leaving their videos instead of fucking making it about me, because that's what she's done. And Diana saying about Kylie, seriously, let me make this clear. That entire family has led to the direct harm of black women. Direct. I want them gone, deplatformed, run out of hills, and bankrupt. It's like that. What is hard to understand? It makes sense to me. But you were the one who was talking good things about Kim Kardashian just a while ago. So now you want them bankrupt. My friend at some point pointed out that she's from a place where neo-Nazi people are kind of blooming right now. And that's not cool to call her white in that context. And this other girl said that, first of all, neo-Nazis didn't just bloom, so just type your clear out of your depth. You're a fucking idiot. That's what I'm gonna say. I don't even know who the fuck you are. Caitlyn Monroe, I don't know, I don't care. You're an idiot, because there are countries in Europe that have been attacked by the Nazis, and they are having certain party leaders who, or just politicians in general, or just people who become more like extreme right-wing towards fascism now in this past few years, and that includes Poland, Croatia, and other places that have been attacked by the Nazis. Some of the politicians are mimicking the behavior of Nazis, and they are blooming because this shit didn't happen a while ago. Because first of all, we are communists, and this shit was not acceptable. Communism is far left, this shit is far right. Do you realize the difference between these two things? And second of all, because people were fucking traumatized from World War II. The people who are blooming are the people who have been born after World War II. Like, get your death's head, not every fucking place is America. And Diana continuing, it's white behavior, love. It's reveling in your ignorance and being upset when someone challenges you. Topics regarding race are that important. That's why Miss Oles, or I don't even know, is Angelika's name? Probably she's like Anglicized it already, and probably her name is like Oles or Olesh or something like that. Like, that sounds more Polish. I don't know. Is out of her depth and getting eaten up. If you want to talk about these things, leading with I'm a person of color and then arguing against a black woman, clearly explaining it to you while having a profile picture that don't even show your face, what do you want brown folk to do? Be calm. The time has come and gone. Get with it or continue to step in it. And my friends never felt comfortable with putting her face on, especially Twitter, which is like extremely public. So she sent a photo of herself being upset, obviously, because she was forced to do this shit. And after that, Diana's whole demeanor changed. You've got beautiful olive skin, a great set of eyebrows, people steal these things from us and then weaponize them against us to make us feel bad about ourselves. Self-love increases with you recognizing that. I hope you have a great day. Like, imagine fucking bullying someone and then turning around and doing this. I don't know what kind of scumbag you have to be on this fucking earth to act like this. And on top of that, she's been lying and accusing Angelika of filtering out the term microaggressions. But if you go on her YouTube comments and you search for microaggressions, you can find multiple comments with the microaggressions being spelled either as two separate words or together. You can find instances of both of them. So I don't understand what she's been smoking. But it's clear that she's been trying to weaponize the pain of another group of people, which is what I hope I will never do in my videos. That's why I'm talking about my experience and my friend's experience and not talking over others. And to end this, I want to talk a little bit about the situation with Angelika, because I feel like this is something that I'm affected by personally as well. Angelika being called anti-Semitic when she's Polish. Nobody's denying that Eastern European people can be anti-Semitic. Everyone can be anything. Like, fucking, like, there's people who hate their own. So, like, Candace Owens is kind of white supremacist, but she's black. There are Slavic people who try to act like they're Westerners, so they're kind of denying their own cultural heritage and Slavophobic. So anyone can be anti-anything. Women who can be sexist and enforce patriarchy and homophobic, internalized homophobia, internalized misogyny. These things exist. So I'm not saying if you're Polish you are always going to not be anti-Semitic, but think about it this way. Let's say you call a person anti-Semitic, and then later on you find out that their grandparents died in World War II because they defended Jewish people or sheltered them. How would you feel calling that person anti-Semitic when their family suffered the same tragedy? I would feel like a dick. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand what is wrong with the girl who called her anti-Semitic. Basically, I found the story. It's because Angelika said that thing on Snapchat, Eva's stories, is insensitive and horrible. Eva's stories is this series of stories made by Jewish people to kind of imagine what the world would be like if the Holocaust had phones and you could post stories. So it's like a person playing a character that was in the time of the Holocaust, but I think the actress is Jewish herself. If you think that this is educational and you are one of the people who've been affected by World War II, good for you. I personally don't think that that's good at all. I think it's making a show out of people's pain, and I can say that because, as I said, how many of us have died? Oh yeah, 37 million, as I said before. So it's not only Jewish people who have been affected by this, therefore it's not only Jewish people who can be offended by this. I hope you guys can understand, this is not anti-Semitic. If it was something that Angelika said in relation to Jews, and she was anti-Semitic, then that would be bad. But Angelika being upset over seeing a weird reenactment of the pain that probably her own grandparents felt as well is not anti-Semitic. And the fact that this show was actually debated even between Jewish people as to whether it's sensible or not to post something like this says that this is already controversial enough. And to kind of elaborate on what I actually said on the main post, I was talking about this because I feel like I expressed myself better in that post. As a Slav myself, we are also allowed to be offended by the project. Just because the project is made by Jewish people targeted at education of Jewish suffering or about Jewish suffering, it doesn't mean Slavs want to be reminded of our own trauma related to World War II while scrolling to Snapchat. There are definitely anti-Semitic Slavs, but if the person is not anti-Semitic and a Slav, it's very hurtful to be called that when our people have suffered a lot too. Imagine how someone would feel if their grandparents got in camps or were executed for helping Jews and then they got called anti-Semitic. It genuinely feels like some of you all online are ready for that conversation. How many Soviets died in World War II? No one wants to acknowledge or talk about that. No one talks about the hunger plan. We're allowed to be upset too. And I stand by what I said. I think, as somebody who I get called anti-Semitic probably every week because my Instagram bio has Free Palestine in it, so because of that, allegedly I'm anti-Semitic. And it makes me laugh because people keep bullying me when I've shown them nothing but solidarity and love. It's upsetting. That's why I'm not laughing at it because it's funny. I'm just laughing because it makes me kind of anxious. Here's the thing. I got called Hitler before. My country was occupied by the Nazis. I don't want to be called the man who hurt my own people. You know what I mean? And I feel like for Angelika, she was rightfully upset. When she got to the part when she explained the anti-Semitic allegations, which have no fucking arguments behind them, she was visibly upset. She was crying. You could see tears in her eyes. Do you feel good about yourself? I don't know what her fucking name was, Jessica something I think. Do you feel good about yourself? Like legit, you're not the only person who suffered. We've suffered even more, but we never put ourselves at the center of the pain of World War II. We let you guys have your space to suffer because we're not assholes, but the way you kind of monopolize on the fucking pain of World War II and you make it so that you're the singular victims of this. You're not the singular victims. And it's painful that you would take that away from us. Take our suffering away from us, dismiss it in that way. It's just painful. And I don't know how to end this video, but the whole drama is just a lot of hypocrisy all around. And it bothers me. I think apologies are owed from many people. And if Angelika's apology, if you don't think it's good enough, because I've seen people saying that she shouldn't have weaponized the receipts that she had against Hannah and Diana, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Because she was upset, she lashed out, maybe it's not appropriate. I think if you guys want another apology for that, you should continue demanding it. But I'm demanding apologies for the things that have personally affected me first, and then if anybody else wants to demand something from Angelika, I will amplify their voices, because that's the best way that I can do things. I'm just upset and I'm disappointed, and I cannot believe that these people are being hailed as being unproblematic, specifically Smokey Glow. I started to realize that nobody that we look up to online is actually genuine, and it kind of hurts to know that. I have another incident of somebody being xenophobic to me from the bigger YouTubers sphere, and I would kind of like to talk about it, but I don't know if I feel comfortable coming out with that one yet, because I want to give me a major panic attack, and it made me, like, my whole body was shaking. I was upset the whole time because of their xenophobia. So I don't know if I'm going to talk about that, maybe soon. I just feel like these are issues that nobody's addressing and they affect me. So even if nobody else cares, I care. So thank you for listening. If you stayed all this video, I appreciate that. This is not the way I am. Normally I'm a lot better spoken, but this is just upsetting, and mentally I'm not, I don't know, my whole body is shaking even right now talking about it. And doing my research to find resources for you guys, I have read about a lot of collective suffering and pain of my people, and it, no, I don't want to say traumatized me, but it did like leave a little bit of a mark. It's too fresh in my memory right now. So yeah, thank you for listening. Bye.
Ever since the day that you